You know, for 2,000 years, there's been this one event that splits the world right down the middle. For some, it's the ultimate symbol of failure, of foolishness. But for others, it's the very source of life-changing power. So today, we're going to dive into that paradox, the power of the cross.
And this verse from the Bible, from 1 Corinthians, just cuts right to the chase. There's no middle ground, is there? The message of a crucified Savior is either complete nonsense, or it's the actual power of God. It really forces you to make a choice, and that's exactly why we need to understand what's going on here.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at this great divide the message creates. Then, we're going to explore the kind of upside-down wisdom behind it all. After that, we'll check out God's chosen method, see how we can actually live this message out, and finally, we'll land on the one big takeaway you need to remember.
Okay, let's jump in with this huge split in how people react. I mean, from the very beginning, the message of the cross has always created two totally opposite responses. It is a message of extremes, for sure.
Just look at how this breaks down. You've got two completely different realities, side by side. On one side, you have the world's logic, which says a crucified Savior is a defeated Savior. It's weakness, it's foolishness. But then on the other side, you have the believer's view. That exact moment of weakness is actually the ultimate display of God's power to save. What one person sees as a roadblock, another sees as pure, divine wisdom.
So that leads to a really important question, right? Why? Why does this message seem so foolish to so many people? To get that answer, we've got to explore a whole new kind of wisdom, one that goes head-to-head with human pride and everything we think we know about power.
And yet, this is the question at the heart of everything. I mean, think about it. If you are an all-powerful, all-knowing God, why on earth would you choose a path of public execution, of humiliation, of what looks like total weakness? It just runs completely counter to our human ideas of what it means to win.
And to get some context, you have to put yourself back in that time. Many Jewish people were expecting a Messiah who would be this incredible warrior king, someone who would come in and just overthrow the Roman Empire. So when a man says he's the Messiah and then ends up publicly executed by those very same Romans, well, that wasn't just a disappointment, it was a scandal. It was a stumbling block that seemed to prove he was a fraud.
And here's the answer. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't some plan B. God deliberately chose this way. The whole point was to totally bypass human pride and our own so-called wisdom. The cross makes it impossible for any of us to stand up and say, I earned this, or I'm smart enough to have figured this out. No way. It was designed so that all the credit, every bit of the glory, goes straight to Him.
So, if God's whole plan is to work through what the world calls weak and humble, let's look at the evidence. Because the method isn't just about the cross itself. It's also about the kind of people He chose to carry His message.
And this just drives the point home perfectly. The Apostle Paul basically tells the believers in the city of Corinth, hey, just look around the room at yourselves. The early church wasn't filled with the movers and shakers, the rich, the powerful, or the intellectual celebrities of the day. Nope, God chose ordinary people, the ones the world would probably call weak or nobodies or insignificant, to carry the most powerful message in history.
And that's the whole point. God's method makes it crystal clear that salvation has nothing to do with our resume, our bank account, or our IQ. If it did, we'd have every reason to brag, but it doesn't. Instead, it is 100% a gift of God's grace. It puts everyone on the exact same level.
Okay, so we've dug into the what and the why of the cross. But what does any of this mean for us, right now in our lives? How do we take this seemingly ancient message and actually live it out day to day? So what does this actually look like? Well, it starts with trusting God's wisdom more than the world's, even when it sounds crazy. And that naturally leads to humility, where we stop trying to take credit for everything. And when that happens, it totally changes how we see other people. We start valuing them for who they are in God's eyes, not by what they've achieved. And it all comes down to depending on Christ, and Christ alone, for our wisdom, our sense of right and wrong, and our strength to get through the day.
So let's pull all these threads together. After looking at this paradox and the wisdom behind it and how to apply it, it all boils down to one simple but life-changing idea about where we find our ultimate worth.
And there it is. That's the bottom line. If our salvation, our wisdom, and our strength all come from God as a gift, then what do we have to boast about in ourselves? Nothing. The entire message of the cross is this radical call to shift our confidence away from what we can do and onto what He has already done.
So, we'll leave you with this question to chew on. In a world that is just obsessed with being strong and self-reliant, where are you really looking for your strength? The message of the cross suggests that real power doesn't come from proving how great we are, but from admitting that we desperately need a Savior. And that is a paradox worth thinking about.